It has come to represent the slow, deliberate pace of a city that consistently chooses the bicycle above all modes of transportation, making up a staggering 70% of traffic, including pedestrians, in the center on a given day. More importantly, this memorial embodies the rejection of a different type of built environment, one that would have looked and felt very different today. While many assume that Amsterdam's status as a world-class cycling city was a given, it quietly reminds passers-by how hard the regular citizens had to fight for that status, and how razor-thin the margins of success were. Before the Second World War, Amsterdam was a city where the streets were public spaces, says Cornelia Dinka, graduate of the University of Amsterdam's urban planning program and founder of the consultancy group Sustainable Amsterdam. They were not only for movement, but places for interaction and exchange. There was a lot of buying and selling and exchange of goods, and because people were living in such small apartments, there was an overflow of activity and street life into the public realm. Life was highly localized, with neighborhoods centered on the local church, market, and school. The city was smaller, and destinations were closer together, so people were moving less, claims Marjolein de Lange, an Amsterdam-based sustainable mobility and road safety consultant. Most movement was done by foot, bike, and public transport. With about 10 cars per 1,000 inhabitants, there were many fewer cars than today, and a lot less space that was dedicated to them. After the bombing of Rotterdam and a bleak 5-year German occupation during which the streets, buildings, and plazas throughout the Netherlands were neglected, Amsterdammers were desperate to revitalize their city, and modernist planners were more than happy to oblige, selling them on a model of growth that provided more light, air, and space. Plans were drafted to separate the functions of the city, pushing housing to the outskirts, from which residents would commute into the center, now solely dedicated to the economy. With no room for nostalgia, such plans slated much of the old city fabric for demolition, so that large monofunctional buildings for banks, institutions, and services could be built, along with the roads and parking garages that would support the growing volume of car traffic moving in and out of the suburbs. Crucially, this scheme also involved a rethinking of the street as a shared amenity. The idea was to move the public space function into a park or somewhere else, argues Dinka. That's the fundamental difference between the pre- and post-war mentality. The post-war city was about the street acting as a channel of movement for cars. That seismic shift in attitude, along with a rise in distances traveled, had an obvious effect, and the growth in automobile traffic was much swifter than anticipated. The car traffic overran the city, explains de Lange. But in the existing pre-war city, streets were narrow, and there was no space for them. There you could see a clash between cars and cyclists, traffic jams, and problems with parking. Proposals to address the clogged streets were myriad. Perhaps the most egregious was a 1954 scheme by Police Commissioner Hendrik Kasjager, who suggested filling in most of the canals to build a series of ring roads and parking structures. I stand behind Kasjager. Fill in 9/10 of the canals as soon as possible, wrote businessman Peter van Dijk in Het Vrije Volk, The Free People. Construct wide ring boulevards. Our children and grandchildren will not care about those canals, and you can always leave a few. While a similar plan was started, and eventually abandoned, in nearby Utrecht, Amsterdammers were not the least bit interested in losing one of their most treasured assets. That plan was ridiculed by most people in the city, says de Lange. That ended the discussion of filling in the canals for roads. Another such proposition was a 1961 study written by young American traffic engineer David Jokinen, working in the Netherlands as a well-funded lobbyist for Stichting Weg, Road Foundation, a pro-business pressure group. Jokinen's report, entitled Geef die Stad een Kans, Give the City a Chance, envisioned a motoring metropolis in the spirit of Robert Moses, who, at the time, was busy devastating New York's.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.